Hey, what's up? So today I want to be talking about the updates RuneScape needs. I'm going to be covering a few of my opinions, and I know thousands of people feel the same way. And there's been many updates to RuneScape lately, but there's never been these updates, and I feel like, the game is moving in such a fast direction. We should just take a step back and look at the old, the old past updates that need to be implemented and just little tweaks to the game. Alright, first idea, wilderness implings. This would be a whole new set of implings found in the wilderness, and of course they would have increased loot. These implings would have faster respawn times, but random spawn locations. Like, the wilderness is very large, so you could have over 100 different spawns and no one could camp them, or if they did, there'd be PKers camping there for the people trying to get them. And on top of that, the wilderness level would determine the impling level. It's kind of like, a young impling or an eclectic impling. You would be finding those in the 20 wild, but if you went to 50, you'd be seeing like the dragon implings and all that type of stuff. A new item called Enchanted Net could be implemented into the game and is required to catch these new implings. The magic net could require 75k to enchant if PK'd, and the net is always lost and the PKer receives 50k, so there's a nice little 25k gold sink. Alright, so here's an example of the new wilderness impling, a higher level version. And make sure you guys throw a like if you do enjoy so far. I actually made that impling as well. I think it looks so badass, and I could come up with a lot of, ideas and whatnot. Of course, if you did catch this impling, you could sell it in the GE, it would be tradable, and I would expect the hype would make them like a mil each at least. It is only found in the wilderness. I just threw an example level, 79. Example loot could be, noted wines of Zami, white berries, dragon bones, ecumenical keys, PK loot, you get like a Nezi helmet or a mystic bottom, that'd be pretty freaking cool. And make sure to leave your opinion below about these new wilderness implings, because out of all the ideas in the video, I would have to go with this one. I really do think this would be one of the best ways to get players into the wilderness. And like the Revenant Caves, it's too PVM and PK oriented. This would be more skilling and just kind of searching and adventuring. And plus there's so much bots camped at the Puro, and that's where most of the implings are found. Like, they're just in a big square wheat field, and it would be awesome to just go search for them and get some extra loot. In the world of Gielinor, this awesome medieval game, you got sheep, you got goblins, you have monsters, you have swamp creatures. Overall, RuneScape has thousands of NPCs and hundreds of high-level monsters and bosses, but there's no horse. What type of medieval game doesn't have a horse? There's cows, bunnies, kebbits, there's everything. There's even chinchompas, squirrels. But there isn't a horse, the most common medieval animal for back in the day. The only reason I could think of is players would then want to mount the horse and ride it, and it would become kind of like World of Warcraft, where people began to have, pets that they could ride and travel faster. But that's my only theory. I honestly am very curious. Leave a comment below. What do you guys think about the no horse in RuneScape, the only creature that is missing? Alright, this is definitely a great idea, and I'm not the one to go fully in-depth on it, but I feel like if Jagex, took some of these ideas and, really put some work into it, it could be a very sick update. I'm sure many of you have noticed the air, fire, earth, and water spells, and you've also noticed that they don't do anything different from each other. The only thing I can think about in the whole game is Raids 1. During the final boss, a firewall spawns, and the water wave does extinguish it. But besides that, there's no purposes, and I think it'd be so cool if RuneScape, added a 10% damage boost. If you were to use a water spell on a fire fiend, you would get a 10% damage increase, and it totally should be like that. And I think that's a really cool idea. Other games do that, and you could go very far. Have certain monsters are, weak to air, weak to this. And it seems a little corny, and I could see people, being against it, but I think it does need more than just a different color. It's actually the same damage, just +1 each spell, and it's kind of boring. It's the exact same thing. I think it's at least kind of cool that the ancient spellbook has like Blood Barrage, Blood Blitz, the poisoning spell, like Shadow Barrage, all that type of stuff. There's 4 different kinds of spells. They all look different, all different colored, and they actually have different uses. Even one poisons, like that's pretty cool. Honestly, a great idea. Jagex could use this for like a marketing tactic as well for free to play, introducing new spells, that type of stuff. But they wouldn't be new spells, they would be the same, just a little bit tweaked. Wandering NPCs, the traveling tradesman. I know this could be done, and this would be an awesome idea. Now, I know for a fact that many of you feel the same way that I do. I'm sure many of us have been playing RuneScape for quite some time, and we get bored seeing the same NPCs standing there day after day. Romeo, I'm gonna ask you a question. What is the first wandering NPC that comes to your mind? Yeah, the dog with rabies. I think they could do so much more with wandering NPCs, even if they just had like little children or possibly Varrock guards walk from Varrock to the barbarian village to Falador and back, and they could just do so much more with this. When I go to cities like Unil or even Lumbridge, I would love it if the NPCs could walk around a little bit more, possibly talk to each other. It would just make me feel more involved with the city instead of me just kind of being a player walking through a dead town. And if I see a real player, that's cool, but most of the time they don't talk to me either. Wow, maybe I just need some freaking friends. So an idea I had with this is the traveling tradesman. You could almost take the same NPCs from, the mage arena, the mage guild, the blast furnace dwarf, and just any NPC you want. You could just change their name and give them like a little walking sequence around Varrock or Lumbridge, or possibly even in some woods. If you were to find and barter with these tradesmen, you could buy your supplies for 5 to 10% cheaper than other NPCs. There could also be one elite tradesman that walks around a huge area, but he's not always there, and if you were to catch him, he'd be selling all of the most expensive items you could buy from a shop, like a dragon square shield, or possibly he could even spawn in rare items like dragon maces, dragon boots, but it'd be very rare, and you could buy them for a cheaper price. Alright, so moving on to the next one, random spawns of rare NPC mobs like bosses, and this definitely ties in with the last one. And again, a little bit controversial, but I feel like if this got pulled and extreme tweaks and adjustments, got made, this is definitely one of the best updates. There's no way you could not agree with this, and I feel like every RuneScape player would be so down for this. So if any of you guys played the game Rift a couple years ago, it was just like World of Warcraft, but it was even better because the whole point of the game was to just take out the rifts. They were big portals, and they were like water, fire, and just like a whole bunch of different things. You could see them from the cities and the castle, and you would go take your mount and run and go attack these random mobs of bosses. You never knew what you're going to expect. And of course, other players from around the cities and whatnot would come to your aid, and more people would slowly show up. If you guys defeated the first wave, the second wave would be harder, and once you guys reach like the 5th or the 10th wave, it would be extreme bosses, and then everyone would get some loot at the end. Yeah, no, obviously it's RuneScape, so we have to tone it down a bit, but the same idea applies. I think this would be freaking awesome. Monsters and bosses that randomly spawn in any location outside of a city, a town, establishment, etc. You just be training on moss giants and a whole bunch of fire giants with possibly like a new fire giant boss. They could even implement, 3 new bosses that don't drop anything crazy. It could just be like a fire dagger, or a new weapon that's relevant to like dragon longsword or something. It'd be pretty freaking cool. These randomly generated mobs will not attack you unless you engage, because I could see like level 30s running past level 100 mob, and they would just shit themselves and they would just get clobbered. So they wouldn't attack you unless you engaged. If you happen to be training in a single zone while these mobs spawn, it could be a smaller clump and possibly a harder boss, but in multi-zones, it would be even harder, and there would be like a whole bunch of monsters. And imagine how cool that would be if like a 20-man clan was PKing deep in 40 wilderness and a mob spawned, and that would just be epic. I always remember peeking around the mage bank, and a meteorite would fall every hour or two in different worlds, and I would go into the bank, get my pickaxe and start mining, and at the end of the meteorite you get a whole bunch of loot, plus people would start piling on, and it was just fun. It wasn't too OP, it wasn't anything like game changing, it was just a little bonus, and it was fun to find. And with random events not attacking you anymore and being kinda shitty, plus not dropping much loot, it's not fun. Honestly, comment right now your favorite random event from back in the day. Do you guys remember like the tree spirit lady with the wand back when you'd woodcut and she would attack you, or your axe would fly off? There were so many cool events. That was always really fun. I feel like what I'm searching for here the most is just something a little bit more unexpected and random.
Ice, baby. Alright, stop, collaborate and listen. Ice is back with my brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me.
Now, the currently empty crates, drawers, chests, and all of the above now have items. Aw man, come on Jagex, since I've been playing the game as a young child, I used to, go through the chests, go through the crates, hoping I get something good, and till this day, they're still freaking empty. I know every single person watching this that has done KBD has clicked on those chests in the cave, and just random crates and chests while doing quests, and there's never anything there. I have a dream that we change this. This would be nowhere near a moneymaker, but it would just be a little bonus, and possibly for free to play, it could be some decent loot. I really don't care if these have a good amount of junk, as long as they have something in the chest. I mean, you're going into someone's house, they should have a couple freaking things in the chest. For an example, if you were to open the crates, you could get food, ores, logs, axes, and pickaxes. The drawers could have jewelry, gold pieces, and clothes, and the chest could have weapon, runes, ammo, and gems. It is also sad to see most RuneScape players just run past any single bookcase, and definitely no one wants to read unless it's for a quest, and if it is, they just spam click the arrow. What if every single bookcase at least contained one book and had a chance to give you back maybe like a quest book you were looking for, plus you can get an XP knowledge book that would grant a small amount of XP. And before, the best skilling method for XP is just spam clicking books to get those XP lamps. Now it wouldn't be like that, it'd be 1 out of like 20 chances to get a 1k XP lamp or something like that. It would just be kind of cool. It would give someone a little reason. It's always about the little bonuses. You're like, damn, whoa, I got an XP book or lamp, wow, that's pretty cool. Gee willikers, I'm feeling really good. Last night I made a lot of gold. What? It's all gone! Moving on to the next one, realistic banks and the grand exchange. Alright, similar to the roaming NPCs and bosses, this is similar to the last one. I think the chests and the banks at the GE should look more realistic like real banks. Yeah, the bank chests don't even hold any gold pieces. And don't get me wrong, RuneScape's just an online, medieval, fantasy game. Everything doesn't have to be realistic, but these are just my pet peeves, and I know thousands of other players feel the same way. You gotta imagine how much gold and wealth and items are out there in the game of, players, banks, and all that type of stuff. And I feel like literally Jagex could spend like a few hours. I want to do it. These are the type of things I'm actually excited about within the game. Just imagine if they added a couple more stacks of gold, possibly a huge stack of rubies, some ores, some logs, some armor, all that type of stuff. Just fill up the bank a little bit more. I really admire what they did with the downstairs of Varrock West Bank, how it's gated off, but there's a whole bunch of stacks of gold pieces, rubies, gold bars, all that type of stuff. And in deadman mode, it's actually a viable way to get gold bars, is to telegrab them through that area, so there is some uses for that. And you guys know the dude with the cart working for the Varrock Museum. Imagine if he went a little bit farther to the GE, but he was bringing back like resources and a whole bunch of gold, plus you could actually trade him as the grand exchanger. I don't know, just some cool ideas, guys. This next one is pretty simple, but it's been grinding my gears for years. If you haven't noticed, every time you cut a gem, it coordinates with the color. Like, if you cut an emerald, it's gonna be a green gem in your hand. But if you actually craft leather, it's always brown. Even if you're making like red d'hide or blue d'hide, yeah, it just doesn't make sense. And like I said, every other action is coordinated, from stringing jewelry to fletching bows, all that stuff is color coordinated. It's been 5 years, come on Jagex.
So seductive, I take you to the candy shop.
But yeah, I really do hope you guys enjoyed this, escape and listen video, and I brought up some cool ideas, what Jagex could implement. And if you do enjoy the video and support, definitely throw a like, because it's a little controversial. Every time I make a controversial video, we get some haters, which, it's no problem, but I do want the supporters to stay active and vocal as well. I've actually never done a video like this, and I have no idea what the feedback is going to be, so if you guys really do enjoy it, I would love to make another one. I have multiple ideas, and I could even serve Reddit and just, I could get a whole bunch of great ideas for Jagex to implement. Have a good one, see ya.
Smoking on that chronic, drinking old English. Ragtime, gang sign, letters on my hat, and